Hi, everybody. I'm Alyce-Kay Ruckelhaus from Threshold of Hanani and the Widow Ruckelhaus. And this is just continuing on from my last video, even though I'll probably post it a different day. I figure you can only take so much of me in one day. And especially since I have a Bible journaling video and a doodling video going up each day too, until the beginning of June. I don't want to overdo it. So anyway, I had promised that I would share something that I'm really struggling with. And it's hard to share. It's really hard to share because among women, this is like really bad. But so for about 2.5 years, I didn't clean my house. I didn't do anything I did minimal stuff, I emptied my cat litter boxes. I took out trash, that kind of thing, but didn't dust or anything. I ran my Roomba some, but not as often as I could. And at first, after Bill died, my mom was here, and so she really helped for a couple months, and then I was doing okay for a while after they left. And then in November, after he died, it hit the anniversary of when we first met in person, and I wasn't prepared for that. And so I spent the next like 2 or 3 months pretty much in bed. I got up to teach my classes to my Chinese kids first thing in the morning, and I did fine with that. And then I took care of my animals, and then I went to bed and I pulled the covers over my head and just cried, or read books or watched movies and stuff, because I was just so depressed. And so my house just got really out of order. Then I had a friend come and stay with me for a little while, and they made the house even worse. Probably because, I had everything in a mess, so they didn't really think that I cared. So I'm not blaming it on them, because it was, like 90% me. So anyway, then I got to the point where I was ready to have my house clean. And so I was like, okay, I need to get my house clean. This is really bad. I need to get it cleaned up and everything. And so I made a list of the different things that I needed to do. I broke it down into 15-minute increments, because that's the best way that I work. And I said, okay, I'm going to work on at least one of these every day. And it may take a long time, but it'll get done. I could not get myself to do that. I just couldn't get myself to do that. Oh, another thing was that I wasn't cooking either. For some reason, I was afraid to cook. And I caught the stove on fire at one point, but that was after I was already afraid to cook. That just made it worse. And so I was just eating. I lived on Reese's peanut butter cups for a couple months, and mainly I just ate, like frozen dinners. I mean, that was like on the healthy side of what I ate, and just yuck stuff, not very good. And as a result, now I have diabetes. Okay, I brought that on myself. So back to my house. So anyway, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get myself, because I felt like I was motivated, and I'd wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, after I do this stuff that I need to do, then I'm going to start working on the kitchen, or or even just like this one small job or something. I just could not get myself to do it. And then Lent came around, and we're really encouraged to give up something as a sacrifice for Lent. But if it's like a bad habit or something, then replace it with something good. And so I was just really praying, and I could not figure out what I should give up or what I should replace or anything like that. And the Sunday before Lent, I remember I was in my bedroom, and I felt like God said to me that not in words, but he gave me this sense that the reason I couldn't clean my house was because I was using it as a buffer to keep people away. And oh, and also a friend of mine had offered to come help me clean my house and stuff, and I was too embarrassed to let her come help me at that point. But anyway, so then I had this kind of revelation while I was getting dressed for church that Sunday morning before Ash Wednesday, and that that I was using my messy house as a buffer to keep people away, because I didn't want to be around people. I just was isolating myself in my grief, which was only making things worse, really. So I thought, okay, that's going to be something to do with Lent, but I can't quite figure it out just yet. So then in church, our deacon gave the sermon, the homily that day, and I can't remember exactly what he preached, but it just like really hit on all those things. And it just like brought out more of that and helped me to understand it. And I realized, okay, this is what I'm doing for Lent. So my thing for Lent was to give up having a messy house as a buffer, which might sound really stupid, but it was a huge spiritual thing for me. And that I was going to spend some time each day working on getting my house cleaned, which again might sound like a really small, stupid thing, but it was a huge psychological and spiritual thing for me. And so I started doing that, and it was like, and then two other things that I was doing along with that as part of it was I was praying for the people, because I used to always be really hospitable. I love to have parties at my house, not like crazy parties, but have people over and introduce other people, get them networking at my house, and have Bible studies at my house and classes and stuff. Um, and I was starting to really want to do that again and have people into my home. And like, I really want to do citizenship classes, because the closest citizenship classes to where I live is 100 miles away. So that's crazy. So Bill and I had been kind of talking about doing that before he died, and I had given that up. And then I realized I could do this by myself. And so part of it was that while I was cleaning up, I would pray for the people who would be coming into my home. And then the other thing was that I listened to a talk about Saint Therese of Lisieux. And one of the things that she said that was so cool was just picking up a pen and putting it away is an act of worship, because God is orderly. And when we make our little corner of the universe orderly, it honors him if we're doing it with that attitude. Not just, oh gosh, I have to clean up my house or something like that. But if we're doing it with that attitude of, I want to make this organized in order to honor God and worship him. And so, I just really wanted my house cleaning to be worshiping God. And so that was really neat too. And then a couple of things happened out of that. So my best friend came down like 3 times, I think, to help me with cleaning up and stuff. And she just said, okay, just tell me whatever you want me to do. And there were a lot of things that I physically can't do because I have mobility problems and stuff. Like almost all of my light bulbs, the light bulbs that are in lamps, like on desks and stuff and tables, I can take care of those. That's no problem. But the ones that have to climb up onto a chair, I physically, besides the fact that I'm afraid of heights, and I've always been afraid of climbing up on a chair, I physically cannot do it because my knees don't bend that much. And so I couldn't get up there. And so my house was getting really dark because all the overhead lamps, the light bulbs were running out. And so I just want to stop for a second and say, if you know a widow or an elderly person who lives alone and you're visiting, ask them if they have anything to do. And if they say no, suggest things like changing light bulbs, changing the batteries in smoke alarms. I mean, that's a huge thing too. Just, anything like that, just kind of glance around nicely, be polite, but see if there are things that you can do to help them out, because they're probably like, they don't feel comfortable asking, but things like that are really important. Like as my house got darker and darker, that was a fall risk for me, especially because I have mobility issues, but I didn't feel comfortable asking somebody to come and change my light bulbs. It seems so stupid. So anyway, so she did stuff like that, and she did a lot more. She was like, oh my word, just so helpful. And then my cousin came down for a week, and she helped me clean and organize my kitchen. Well, before that, even a friend, not the one who made things a mess, but another friend came down, and he spent the week for Thanksgiving, and he cleaned up my kitchen, and he fixed my stove and my oven and made sure everything was safe and everything. And that helped a lot, just knowing that that was safe. So then my cousin came down last month for a week, and she helped me with my kitchen, with getting it all cleaned up, but also organized. We went through all my cupboards and my pantry, and I had bought containers, like square and rectangle containers that they could stack with labels and everything. And so pouring everything into there. So like she did all the stuff that had to be done standing up, and I don't have very much energy either. But I could sit at the counter and dump things into containers and stuff, or sort through stuff that she brought to me. And I wanted to get rid of my kitchen table because I have my mom's table. I want to put that up in the living room because it's a really big, long table. And so it'll be nice for dinner parties and classes and stuff like that. And then I've turned my dining room into more of like a seating area. We moved my futon in there and got rid of the huge sectional couch that Bill and I had up in our other house, and that was up in the mountains. It was one that we had here, and then we moved it up to the mountains, but it's really too big for this house, especially if I put the big table in there. So getting rid of that furniture helped a lot too. And then she organized my bathroom and yeah, cleaned up like the grout and stuff, that I hadn't cleaned for 3 years or 2.5 years, I guess, just stuff like that. It was just like such a huge blessing. But so here's a couple of things that I wanted to share though about that was really cool. Okay, so first of all, when I started this process, my plan was at first to do like a whole room at a time. Like, okay, I'm going to work on the kitchen, and I can break it down into small pieces, but I'm going to work on the kitchen first, and I'm going to work on this and so on. And what God put on my heart to do, and this has just been so perfect, was instead to take a category and like boxes. I had tons of boxes because I order everything because I can't carry stuff up my stairs. And so there's 16 steps from my driveway up the hill to my front door, and carrying groceries and everything else. So I order my produce, I order my meat, I order just about everything that I can from Amazon, and then I pick up a few things at Walmart that they bring out to my truck, and I have to carry those things up, but it's not very much. So I have tons and tons of boxes. And so getting those all open. But what the Lord impressed on me was from a story, and I'm not saying I'm demon possessed or anything, don't take it that way, but there was a story that Jesus told about somebody who he was talking about casting out demons. And he said that if you cast out a demon from a place and you clean that all up, in your heart and everything, you clean that all up, but you don't replace it with something else, that demon's going to come back with 7 of his friends. And I knew that if I just like got rid of all the boxes and stuff, it's just going to build up again. And so I needed to replace that with a rule for myself and a practice for myself. And so my rule for myself now is when a box comes into the house, I have to unpack it and put the stuff away within an hour, unless there's a really, really good reason. But then I have to make an appointment with myself for when I am going to do it. And then the box needs to be broken down right away. And I have a place where I store, boxes until trash day and stuff. And so then I don't have boxes all over the place. And then, a similar thing with bags, with Walmart bags and stuff, because the cats just spread those all over the house. And just different things like that, that every mess that I clean up has to be replaced with a practice for keeping that particular thing clean. The other thing that was really, really cool was, and this had to be God. I mean, it's just like a spiritual thing. I didn't say things to people. I just, like a couple close friends knew about what I was doing, and that was it. I mean, I didn't share about this with other people. And people at church started inviting me out. Some ladies invited me out to eat with them, and then one of those ladies invited me to have lunch with their family, and another family invited me to their place for Easter, and just all these things. It was like suddenly, and it wasn't like those people were unfriendly before or anything, and I wasn't turning down invitations either, but it was kind of like either God started putting on their heart because I had taken away that buffer between myself and people, or something opened up spiritually so that people knew that they could do that. I don't know. But anyway, it's just, I don't think it's a coincidence that happened when I repented of having that buffer and decided to get rid of it. So anyway, that's just really neat. My house isn't to the place yet where I'm ready to have people over in general. I mean, there's a few people that I'm okay with having over, but for the most part, it's not there yet. It's going to take a while because of the way that I'm doing it, because if I just cleaned everything all up at once and got it all organized at one time, and didn't replace it with habits, then it would just be the same or maybe even worse. And so I want to take the time to build those habits back. Most of them are habits that I had before, but it's been almost 3 years. And so I have to build those habits again. I have to relearn those practices. And some of them are new practices because, they were things that Bill took care of, but now I need to take care of them. And so I need to build all those things into my routine and stuff. And so anyway, so it's been really fun actually. But I just wanted to share that because I have been really, really embarrassed that my house is such a mess and dirty. And I've heard women gossip about other women. I mean, seriously, about and I honestly I think that's really horrible, ladies, when you do that, when you gossip about women for whatever reason, whatever their problem is. That's just, it's unkind to that person, but also there are other people hearing that who then feel like, oh, I'm like that, I'm really not worthy or something. And that was really how I felt. And there was no way I was going to let anybody into my house because it was a mess. And that made me, in other people's eyes, something horrible. And really, what we're doing when we start gossiping about somebody else's sin is we're trying to distract people from our own shortcomings. Um, so, we just need to take care of our own shortcomings instead. But I just really wanted to encourage you to, if you've got something that you're embarrassed by that you need to work on, sometimes it's appropriate to share with a bunch of people like this. There are other struggles that aren't so appropriate to share very publicly, but at least share it with somebody. It's very hard to conquer things by yourself. You really do need help. And then also just to think about what you're saying so that you don't discourage people, and so that yeah, just to understand that none of us is perfect. And a lot of times you don't know what somebody's going through. If those ladies who had been gossiping had come to my house, they probably would have gossiped about me too. And they had no idea that I had lost my husband or anything. I don't know, that may not have been an excuse to them anyway, but yeah, they didn't have any idea. And so we don't know what's going on in somebody's life. And so, yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that. I hope that it encourages you. I hope that it reminds you that it's normal to have struggles. It's normal to not be perfect. And the best way to work on that is by asking for help first of all, from the Lord, and also from those people around us that we're able to trust with that. All right. I love you all. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.